Right now we have a lot of things going on, and many of us are anxious. Many of us are on edge. Many of us are worried about our jobs, worried about our finances, worried about our children, our wives, husbands. We're worried about a lot of different things. And it's normal, if you will, to be worried, to be anxious about things that are going on. But when I'm talking about anxiety, we're talking about a disorder. And like one of the things we mentioned before, in order for a thing to be categorized as an illness or as a disorder, it has to meet certain criteria, and it has to last for a certain period of time. So again, we're not talking about just things that just started. We're talking about, I'm sorry, some of you see me looking away. I'm looking at my camera here. Okay. We're talking about something that's ongoing, that lasts for a certain period of time, and that it starts to impact your life. Okay. So when we talk about anxiety, we're not talking about just, as I said, feeling anxious. We're talking about a disorder. Now, there are different types of anxiety, right? We're looking at generalized anxiety, and that's where people, you worry for about everything. Okay, it's just generalized. It's like you overthinking. It's just you worried. Okay, and then you look at panic disorders. Panic disorders are anxiety disorders, but it's when it's a response to a certain thing. It's like when you have reoccurring panic attacks. Now, a person can have a panic attack and not have a panic disorder. You won't have the disorder. Again, in order for a person to have a disorder or an illness, it has to meet certain criteria, and one of those criteria is a time factor, right? It can't just be one time. It has to be over a period of time. But a panic disorder is, if you've ever seen or ever had a panic disorder, you would know what I'm talking about, right? A panic disorder, when a person first has it or when you first experience it, it feels like you're going to have a heart attack. You feel like you can't breathe. Your mind is racing. You feel like you're going to, some people describe it as feel like they're going to die. Many times a person, especially when they first have their panic attack or have a panic attack for the first time, they go to the hospital, they go to the emergency room, because it feels like you're having a heart attack. Think about when you're feeling anxious, right? Let's just say you have to be someplace at 9 and you're late. And you're trying to rush to get there, and your heart starts beating a little bit, and your blood pressure is up, a little elevated. Imagine that feeling times 10. So when you talk about a panic attack, it seems to come from out of nowhere, and it makes the person feel like they are having a heart attack or they may die, especially the first time that they've had it, right? So many times they'll go to the hospital, they'll go to the emergency room, see their doctor. The doctor will run tests and tell them, hey, your heart and everything is fine. And it's usually after that, then they realize, oh, this was a panic disorder, a panic attack. Usually the first time you have it, as I said, the second time you kind of get used to it, you know what it is, and you kind of begin to learn how to manage it. A panic disorder is when you have panic attacks on a regular basis, and now you have a disorder. And then you're looking at phobias, right? A person, I have a phobia about heights. I have a phobia about going outside. Then you look at OCD, and then you look at PTSD. Okay, so there are different types of disorders. But I just want to read something here. As I said before, we all experience anxiety at some point in our lives. But when we're looking at an anxiety disorder, it is more intense, it lasts longer, and it starts to interfere with our lives. So what do you mean interfering with our lives? When you think about a phobia, for example, there are some people who won't do certain things because of they're afraid. Anxiety can limit your life. Anxiety can put you in a position where you're not able to live your life to the fullest because you can't get past the anxiety. You don't want to go outside. You don't want to be around certain people. It could be something. You have a phobia concerning OCD. We've seen that. You heard a lot about that on TV. A person may wash their hands over and over several times. Repetitious behavior. Okay. Let's look at some of the symptoms of anxiety. Just like with all the disorders, you look at thoughts, feelings, behaviors. You're looking at spirit, soul, and body. Okay? Physically, pounding heart, chest pain, as I said before, rapid heartbeat, hyperventilation, shortness of breath, dizziness, headache, muscle aches, pain. Okay? Anxiety disorder can bring on this unrealistic fear of the future. Because when you're looking at anxiety, a lot of it is related to what could happen. especially when we look at generalized anxiety. So it's an unrealistic and excessive fear and worry about past and future events, mind racing, you can go blank, you decrease concentration, memory, restlessness, feeling on edge. You start avoiding certain situations, like I mentioned before, because you start anticipating. You start anticipating certain situations that this is going to happen, so you avoid it. So that's what I mean about how your life can become real smaller, right? God has given our life for us to live to the fullest. But if we're not careful, the anxiety disorder can put us in a situation where our life becomes smaller. We avoid certain things. We avoid going over bridges. We avoid dealing with being in certain circumstances, right? So we don't go outside anymore. Some people, because of the anxiety, they don't even go outside. Everything is DoorDash. Everything is delivered. And that's fine. But when you think about it in the long run, what type of life really is that? What type of life, it's one thing to be alive. It's another thing to really be living your life to the fullest, right? And if we're not careful, anxiety will put us in a situation, as I said 5 times already, where our life is so much smaller. And this is the reason why it's really important for us to kind of get help, to start talking to people, to push beyond that anxiety. Because if not, you don't want to be 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, looking back on your life and realize that the anxiety, that this disorder has taken over or taken a chunk out of your life, right? And that you never really got to the heights or achieved the things that you could have achieved because of the anxiety, right? So we want to kind of get some help with that. Just to go a little further, I mentioned generalized anxiety disorder. The main symptoms of generalized anxiety disorder, or GAD, are overwhelming, unfounded anxiety and worry about things that may go wrong, or one's inability to cope, accompanied by multiple physical symptoms, right? Again, symptoms of anxiety or tension are occurring more days than not for at least 6 months. So again, that goes back to the category. So let me stop here again and read this again. You're looking at overwhelming, unfounded anxiety and worry about things that may go wrong, or one's inability to cope. So when you're looking at generalized anxiety, you're anxious about things that could go wrong, right? You anticipate, well, what will happen if this happens, or what will happen if this happens? Well, will I be able to handle it? Well, suppose I lose my job. Suppose they don't call me back. Suppose she does this or he does this. Suppose they don't like me. Generalized anxiety will have you going around in circles in your mind, because you can just start thinking about all the things that can go wrong, all the things that could happen, right? And then also your inability to handle it, or whether you can handle or not handle it. So when we talk about generalized anxiety disorder, you're anxious about things in general, nothing specific. You're just anxious about what's going to happen tomorrow, what happened in the past. What I always tell people, when you find yourself in this rut, pull out a pen or paper, pencil, or whatever the case is, and begin to write down what you're anxious about, and begin to force yourself to develop a plan. Because you want to do is stop your mind from racing. You want to stop your mind. Because if you're not careful, like I said, you can spend a whole day going back to, what if I lose my job? Oh my God, if I lose my job, then I'll lose my car. And if I lose my car, what will happen? Now I have to walk. Oh my God, and if I'm walking, I'll probably get mugged. Oh my God, what will I do if I get mugged and they'll steal all my items out of my purse? Oh gosh, now I don't have an ID card. Oh, I don't have an ID card. Now I don't have a driver's license. Oh my God, I'm not going to be able to drive. Oh gosh, well, I won't be able to drive. That means they'll take my car. I won't be able to get another job. You see how that goes in your mind? And I'm doing like this to show you how it goes, like in circles. Maybe I should do it like this. It goes in circles. What if I lose my job? Then I can't pay for my car. My car gets repossessed. Then now I don't have any a way to drive. And then I can't take the bus because I don't have any money for the bus. And then suppose I get mugged. And then if I get mugged, they steal my ID and driver's license. And then if they steal my ID and driver's license, I don't have any money to get an ID or driver's license back. So then I'll be without a driver's license and ID, which I need my driver's license and ID in order to get a job. And then if I don't have a job, then, it just keeps going around and around in circles, right? That's generalized anxiety disorder. You're anxious about things that haven't even happened yet. Again, pull out a pen or paper and begin to identify what would you do if these things did happen? What would you do? How would you make a change, right? Come up with a plan. But generalized anxiety disorder is just anxiety out of control, okay? As I mentioned before, panic disorders are a series of panic attacks. Think about that. As I talked before, because you have a panic attack doesn't necessarily mean that you'll develop a panic disorder. A person with a panic disorder experiences reoccurring panic attacks for at least 1 month, is persistently worried about possible future panic attacks and possible consequences of panic attacks. So when you think about, notice something about anxiety. Anxiety is usually something you're anxious about, something that hasn't happened yet, or about your ability to handle it, about something that happened in the past. You're usually anxious about things before they even got here, before tomorrow hasn't even gotten here, and I'm already thinking about what I'm going to do tomorrow, okay? And then, as I mentioned before, phobic disorders. A person with a phobic disorder avoids or restricts activities because of persistent and excessive fear. Because of fear of going out, you avoid going out. Because of fear of speaking in public, you avoid speaking in public, right? So whatever the fear is. We talk about agoraphobia. We hear that a lot, right? That's where people don't like going out. So you avoid certain situations because of fear. Social phobia is the fear of any situation where public scrutiny may occur, usually with the fear of behaving in a way that is embarrassing or humiliating. So you social phobia, you avoid going out, being around people, being in certain events because you're afraid of being humiliated. You're afraid of what people might say. You have anxiety about this type of stuff, right? Then you have specific phobias where we talk about snakes, heights, things of that nature. Then obsessive compulsive disorder is the least common anxiety disorder, but can be very disabling. So while it's the least common, it can be very disabling, but it's one that people have talked about because you see it like on TV, right? Obsessive thoughts and compulsive behaviors accompany feelings of anxiety. Obsessive thoughts are recurring impulses and are images that are experienced as intrusive, unwanted, and inappropriate. And this is where you have this, you can't stop yourself from doing the same behavior over and over again. You know, it's normal, or natural, I should say, you know, to leave your house and say, oh, dang, I wonder if I turned the gas off. And then you may go back and check, okay, I'm fine, right? But for some people, they may have to do that 10 times before they get comfortable enough to leave their home, if they even do, okay? So we're looking at what causes anxiety. Anxiety is mostly caused by perceived threats in the environment, but some people are more likely to be diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. Like we talked about before in this broadcast, people will say, well, what causes a disorder, right? And we know thoughts, feelings, behaviors, we know about the environment, we know there's biological, and we know about the environment. But we know that there's usually a combination of both. There are some disorders that you can point to and say, it's definitely biological, or it's definitely environmental. You can point to PTSD and say it's definitely related to trauma or this particular event. Right? You can point to postpartum depression and say, okay, it's definitely related to this particular event, this life event. So there's certain disorders that you can point to, and then there's certain disorders you can't. It's a combination, because you and I can be in the exact same situation. I may be diagnosed with an anxiety disorder later on down the road, and you may not be. So it's not just you look at psychological, environmental, it has a lot to do with how we're made up as well, how we're wired. So when we talk about what causes disorder, we know anxiety is mostly caused by perceived threats in the environment, but then there are some people who are more likely, because of their makeup, to maybe be diagnosed. There are some people who have a more sensitive emotional nature and tend to see the world as threatening. Okay, nothing wrong with having an emotional nature. I'm just pointing these out. Have a more sensitive emotional nature and tend to see the world as threatening. Then there are some people who have a history of anxiety, of childhood anxiety, right? And what happens is, if you had something happen to you before, especially as a child, it's easier for you to kind of experience it again as an adult because it's something that you're used to. You're used to behaving in that particular way unless something happens to change the script. Abuse alcohol, females more so, women more so, had a traumatic event. Then there are some family factors that we've noticed. Difficult childhood, again, For example, experiencing physical, emotional, or sexual abuse. Family background that involves a lack of poverty. Family history of anxiety disorder, separation and divorce. Anxiety symptoms can also result from some medical conditions, side effects of medications, drug use. Yes, some drug use. So there are a lot of different reasons why. And again, there are some people, because of their makeup, because of their experiences, their life experiences, they've had trauma in the past, they may be a little more susceptible to it. But keep in mind, it doesn't mean that just because you are, let's say you were a victim of trauma and you are a woman and you do use alcohol, okay, maybe you fit some of these categories, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. It doesn't work that way, okay? It's usually a combination of different things. So again, when we talk about anxiety, it's important that people kind of get help, right? If you're with someone, okay, who is experiencing anxiety disorder, or if you're the person who's experiencing anxiety, it's important you get around someone that you're able to talk to, that you're able to share your feelings with, to talk about, right? To talk about why you're anxious. If you're unable to manage your anxiety, you may have to look at medications. Everybody doesn't need medications, and everyone doesn't need therapy. If you can get someone that you can talk to, if you can kind of work through what's going on with you, you may not need to. But if you do, know that therapy and medications are important, are important and are helpful. This is a book here. If you can go online at NIH, if you go on our website at igbatt.com, I'm sure we have the link. But it has a lot of good information that you can download about different diagnoses, different illnesses, and I think it will be important. This one is on GAD. So again, when you look at anxiety, let me see which. This one here is on PTSD. So I have the one on PTSD. I have them all actually, but right with me. This is PTSD. This is on GAD. Generalized anxiety disorder, and I usually just give this out to people, but you can go online and get these, right? You can download these and read these, because you don't have to suffer or live in pain, right? Jesus Christ has come that we might have life and life more abundantly, and he's given us things to help us. That doesn't mean, it takes the place of prayer, doesn't it mean it takes the place of going to church. All of those things are important, because supportive systems, supportive people, supportive environments, like church, like fellowship, it helps. We know research shows us that it does in fact help us, right? So we're not saying not to do those things. We're just saying that sometimes you may need to add to. You may need to, for a little while, talk to somebody about what's going on with you. And again, that person doesn't have to be a therapist. The problem is that too many of us don't have anybody that we even talk to. So too many of us, we keep things bottled up inside. So if you can find a good friend, a good somebody that you can talk to, a priest or someone that you can share what's going on with you, that may be all you need. But if it gets to the point where you realize that you need more, then don't be ashamed to get more. Okay, don't be ashamed to seek out a therapist, to do some reading, to do your research, right? But the number one thing that you can do when you talk about anxiety is being able to control your thoughts. How do you control your thoughts? By challenging your thoughts. Okay, you have to break that cycle, because if not, your thoughts will have you going round and round and round in circles. You have to stop those thoughts by asking yourself questions. Okay, oh my God, what if I lose my job? You got to stop yourself. Well, you know what? That's a very good question. Let me put out a pen and a paper. What if I lose my job? Let me list 5 things that I'm going to do. And you want to list the things that could go wrong. Okay, well, I could get put out. I could, my credit could get bad. This can happen. This can happen. Or number 5, I can get another job. And then after you list those things, then go back to that list and say, okay, so what can I do? What strategies can I put in place? Is there someone I can reach out to? Okay, who can I call? You want to start thinking, because what anxiety will do, anxiety disorder, anxious thoughts will do is have you going around in circles, and you'll be a puppet. You'll become a puppet to what could happen. You'll be a puppet, if you will, to what might go wrong. But you have to take control over your thoughts. You can take control over your thoughts begin to challenge it in those thoughts. Begin to write things down. I'm a real advocate of writing things down because sometimes you got to see it. Because if not, you'll spend hours and hours before you even realize it thinking about what could go wrong. Okay? Instead of planning for what could go wrong, think about what could go right. You notice that you never think about the good things. You always think about losing your job. We never worry about, oh gosh, what will happen if I get a better job that's paying me 6 figures? Or what would happen if I meet the guy or the girl of my dreams? Or what would happen, or if I hit $1 million? We never think about the positive things. It's always the negative things. And what do those negative things do? Those negative things, those anxious thoughts bring us down. Thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are connected. So we don't know why. We may say, I don't know why I'm feeling depressed. Anxiety and depression go together. It's no wonder. Because if you're anxious, you're going to be eventually depressed at some point, right? Because if you're anxious about all the things that could go wrong, it's going to start weighing on you, and you can start feeling sad, you can start feeling depressed, right? And it's going to lead to more problems. So again, you have to break that anxiety, break that cycle by start pulling out a pen or paper and thinking about what can I do different, okay? What can I do about the things that's causing me anxiety? So what? If I get up there and I have to speak, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? People will laugh at me. I won't do a good job. Or, I'll get my words mixed up. Or, people will say things about me. Yeah, that's the worst thing. But what else could happen? What could happen is now you learned a new skill. Now you stepped out of the boat. Now you learn other things that you can do. Okay, yeah, I didn't do this right. I didn't pronounce this word right. So let me go back and practice. It will push you to practice, or push you to be better. Our anxiety keeps us like this, keeps us like in a little, this is our life, that what God has for us. The fullness of our life, the joy, the happiness, the friends, the family, all of the good things He has for us. This is our anxiety. When we allow anxiety to kind of keep us stuck, all of those good things never get out, right? We're stuck. We're worried about what could happen. We're worried about who's going to say something about us, who's not going to like us. We're worried about how things are not going to work. We're worried about going outside. I don't like people. People are narcissistic. People are this. People are that. People are people. And I think one of the things that we have to learn, all of us, people are people. We all have things that we're going through, right? But we're stuck. And that good thing that God put in us never gets out, okay? We die. When we die, okay, we die with that with us, okay? And it never gets out, right? Or the goodness, the thing that God has for us. And then at the same time, some of us are praying, Lord, I want this to happen for me. I want this to happen for me. It would, but we're stuck. We're allowing anxiety to keep us stuck, right? We're allowing worry to keep us from moving forward. We're allowing fear about what could happen, or fear about what people would say about me, or fear about, how I'm going to look, or how I sound, or all this kind of stuff to keep us limited. Okay, we relying on DoorDash, and we're relying on all these, Walmart delivering, DoorDash deliver. I don't want to go outside because the world is so unsafe. But just like you're keeping your inside because of your fears, okay, you're inside and you're stuck, right? You're not being able to experience what's on the outside. But I don't want to go out on the outside. I don't want to go out. I'm fine the way I am. You say that now, but time has a way of bringing about a change. Again, this has been It's Getting Better All the Time Mental Health Outreach. You can find out more about us by logging on to our website at igbattmho.org. Again, don't let your feelings, don't let your thoughts, don't let your fear keep you stuck. Don't let it limit you. Fear, worry, anxiety, if we do not get a handle on it, if we don't overcome it, if we don't challenge it, it will keep us living a very limited life. It will keep us away from the life that God originally designed for us. And God has given us all things pertaining to life and godliness. He wants us to live our life to the fullest. But you can't live your life to the fullest if you're afraid. Again, we all get anxious, we all get fearful, but there are some of us who actually have the anxiety disorder, right? And that disorder brings about, it limits your life, right? Anything that you allow to limit you, or to put you in a situation where you can't do certain things, has the ability to limit you, has the ability to limit your life. And when I'm coming here today to let you know that you don't have to do that. There's hope available. You don't have to live a limited life. The reason why you tell yourself that it doesn't matter, that I don't care, I don't like people, I don't want to go out anyway, everybody's a narcissist, everyone is this, is because of fear. That's your fear talking. That's your fear, that's your worry, that's your anxiety, that's the fact that things never worked out for me before in life talking. And I'm saying to you that life is beautiful. Get out and smell the roses, enjoy life, enjoy the sun, enjoy meeting new people, enjoy making mistakes, because everybody's not a good person. You move on. Okay, oh, now I learned this is not a good person. I move on. Or this is not a good environment for me. This is not a good situation. I move on. Right? Again, get a pen, paper, and start writing some things down, which you're anxious and worried about. Come up with a plan. And implement the plan. Don't just write it down. Implement the plan, right? And then if you find that plan doesn't work, that strategy doesn't work, you come up with another one. But don't live a life with limits. Don't do that. Take the limits off of your life, because God has not given you a small life, right? Again, this is It's Getting Better All the Time Mental Health Outreach, providing information support while encouraging hope and faith. Log on to our website at igbatt.com. And again, you can also go on the National Institute of Mental Health. They have different brochures that you can download. I think I'll go ahead and put this on there is a link on our website to NIMH, National Institute of Mental Health. But I'll also put this one in particular, make sure that you can see it, maybe a little later on. But again, we're talking about anxiety. Don't let it get you down. Don't worry. Okay? Use worry and anxiety for your advantage. See worry and anxiety as things that are going to push you further into life, into a good thing. That's going to help you strategize. igbatt.com, providing information support while encouraging hope and faith. God bless you and good night. Or good day. And if you want to write us, Post Office Box 7432, Silver Spring, Maryland 20910, or you can email us at igbatt1 at AOL.com. God bless, for real this time. Bye.